Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Rucha Janarandana Yashodanandana Rucha Janarandana Yamunatira Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jamarava Gopi Jamarava Yashodanandana Raja Janarandana Yashodanandana Raja Janarandana Yashodanandana Raja Janarandana Yamunatira Brahmachari. Yamunatira Brahmachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Oh, good. We're on the same page. Today we'll hear from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 25, Text 9. Oh. For the record, Canto 4, Chapter 25, Text 9. Do we do word by word first, or? Well, the word to word thing, but we just do the whole pada straight through. People do it differently, different places. So I always have to ask. Atrate katayishye mum.
Atrate katayishye mum.
Itihasam puratanam.
Itihasam puratanam.
Puranjanasya charitam.
Puranjanasya charitam.
Nibodha garato mama.
Nibodha garato mama.
Atrate katayishye mum.
Atrate katayishye mum.
Itihasam puratanam.
Itihasam puratanam.
Puranjanasya charitam.
Puranjanasya charitam.
Nibodha garato mama.
Nibodha garato mama.
Atrate katayishye mum.
Atrate katayishye mum.
Itihasam puratanam.
Itihasam puratanam.
Puranjanasya charitam.
Puranjanasya charitam.
Nibodha garato mama.
Nibodhagadato mama.
Others, please.
Atrate katayishyemam. Atrate katayishyemam. Iti hasam puratanam. Iti hasam puratanam. Puranjasya charitam. Puranjasya charitam. Nibodhagadato mama. Nibodhagadato mama.
Atrate katayishyemam.
Atrate katayishyemam. Itihasam Puratanam.
Puranjanasya charitam.
Puranjanasya charitam.
Nibodhagadato mama.
Nibodhagadato mama. Atrate katayishyemam. Itihasam Puratanam. Puranjanasya charitam. Nibodhagadato mama. Atrate katayishyemam. Itihasam Puratanam. Puranjanasya charitam. Nibodhagadato mama.
Atrate katayishyemam.
Atrate katayishyemam.
Itihasam Puratanam.
Itihasam Puratanam.
Puranjanasya charitam.
Puranjanasya charitam.
Nibodhagadato mama.
Nibodhagadato mama.
Word to word. Atra, herewith, te, unto you, katayishye, I shall speak,
I shall speak
amum, on this subject matter,
on this subject matter.
itihasam,
Itihasam,
history,
history.
puratanam,
Puratanam,
very old,
very old.
puranjanasya,
Puranjanasya,
in the matter of puranjana,
in the matter of Puranjana.
charitam,
Charitam,
this character,
his character.
nibodha,
Nibodha,
try to understand,
try to understand.
garata,
Gadata,
garata mama,
gadata mama,
while I'm speaking.
while speaking.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In this connection, I wish to narrate an old history connected with the character of a king called Puranjana. Please try to hear me with great attention. Responsively, please. In this connection, I wish to narrate an old history connected with the character of a king called Puranjana. Please try to hear me with great attention. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The great sage Narada Muni turned toward another topic, the history of King Puranjana. This is nothing but the history of the king Prachina Barhishat told in a different way. In other words, this is an allegorical presentation. The word Puranjana means one who enjoys in a body. This is clearly explained in the next few chapters. Because a person entangled in material activities wants to hear stories of material activities, Narada Muni turned to the topics of King Puranjana, who's none other than King Prachina Barhishat. Narada Muni did not directly deprecate the value of performing sacrifices in which animals are sacrificed. Lord Buddha, however, directly rejected all animal sacrifice. Srila Jayadev Goswami has stated, Nindasi yagya vidher ahashruti jatam. The word shruti jatam indicates that in the Vedas, animal sacrifice is recommended, but Lord Buddha directly denied Vedic authority in order to stop animal sacrifice. Consequently, Lord Buddha is not accepted by the followers of the Vedas. Because he does not accept the authority of the Vedas, Lord Buddha is depicted as an agnostic or atheist. The great sage Narada cannot decry the authority of the Vedas, but he wanted to indicate to King Prachina Barhishat that the path of karmakanda is very difficult and risky. Foolish persons accept the difficult path of karmakanda for the sake of sense enjoyment, and those who are too much attached to sense enjoyment are called mudhas, rascals. It is very difficult for a mudha to understand the ultimate goal of life. In the propagation of the Krishna consciousness movement, we actually see that many people are not attracted because they are mudhas engaged in fruitive activities. It is said, Upadesho hi murkhanam prakopaya nashante. If good instructions are given to a foolish rascal, he simply becomes angry and turns against the instructions instead of taking advantage of them. Because Narada Muni knew this very well, he indirectly instructed the king by giving him the history of his entire life. In order to wear a gold or diamond nose pin or earring, one has to pierce the ear or nose. Such pain, endured for the sake of sense gratification, is endured on the path of karmakanda, the path of fruitive activity. If one wishes to enjoy something in the future, he has to endure trouble in the present. If one wants to become a millionaire in the future and enjoy his riches, he has to work very hard at the present moment in order to accumulate money. This is karma kandiya. Those who are too much attached to such a path undergo the risk anyway. Narada Muni wanted to show King Prachina Barhishat how one undergoes great troubles and miseries in order to engage in fruitive activity. A person who's very much attached to material activity is called Vishayi. Vishayi is an enjoyer of Vishaya, which means eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Narada Muni is indirectly indicating through the story of King Puranjana that eating, sleeping, mating, and defending are troublesome and risky. The words itihasam, history, and puratanam, old, indicate that although a living entity lives within the material body, the history of the living entity within the material body is very old. In this regard, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has sung Anadi karma phale paribhavarna vajale toribade nade ki upai. Due to my past fruitive activities, I've fallen into the water of material existence and I cannot find any way to get out of it. Every living entity is suffering in this material existence from past activities. Therefore, everyone has a very old history. Foolish material scientists have manufactured their own theories of evolution, which are simply concerned with the material body. But this is actually this is not the real evolution. The real evolution is the history of the living entity, who is Puranjana, living within the body. Sri Narada Muni will explain this evolutionary theory in a different way for the understanding of sane persons. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukhaṁ karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim. Yatkripatamaham bande Shri Gurun Dinataram. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadama Hyang Dadati Swapadantikam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatadini Mancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Atrate Katayishyemum Itihasam Puratanam Puranjanasya Charitam Nibodha Garatom. In this connection, I wish to narrate an old history connected with the character of a king called Puranjana. Please try to hear me with great attention. So there are a few things I noticed reading this verse and the purport. Srila Prabhupada's purport is largely drawn from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on this verse. He says, Narada considered, I will enlighten the king who is fond of material stories with this material story. People who are materialistically inclined like to hear stories about other people who are materialistically inclined. I mean, we go to the movies to be entertained, to be distracted. Any Spanish speakers? The Spanish word for entertainment is diversión, yeah? It's diversion. We go to we go to the movies, we read science fiction, science fiction novels. Sometimes we read science fiction novels to stimulate our thinking, because especially some science fiction writers like Octavia Butler, Ursula Le Guin, and a few others, they wrote very thought-provoking stories that really stretch the imagination. Creatures that change gender from time to time, season to season, or something like it. Just all kinds of interesting things. But a lot of the, you got the airport novels, right? I don't read them, so James, what's his name? Robert Ludlum with that whole series of spy thrillers or whatever they are. I remember reading a couple of them when I was staying with my friend Narayan Prabhu many years ago. About a year and a half, I rented a room in his house, and he had so many books, all kinds of books, but lots of these kind of the airport, the books you buy to read on the plane or something like that. So we like to hear stories, and we like stories that that distract us, but also reaffirm our endeavor in the material world. We like those big action, some people like those big action movies. Now they're like almost all CGI, and they're not even, there's often no character development or anything thoughtful. It's just going to wow you with all these big chase scenes and explosions and crashes and gory murders and stuff like that. So we like this stuff in the material world. He says, so I'll awaken him to his condition by relating a different story, using the ornament of aprastuta prashansa, conveying the message by something which is different. The meaning of the sentence is clear. However, the story is actually about you, who create your body by your actions. And it's ancient because it starts before you entered the womb of your mother. So we see how Srila Prabhupada grows. He takes this very succinct commentary on the verse, and he grows it for a different audience. So a couple of things caught my attention. One is just the nature of Srimad Bhagavatam, the way it's structured. It's narratives nested within other narratives, nested within other narratives. Sometimes I think we go maybe even 5 levels deep, maybe even 6 in some places. And I think so. I'm trying to calculate here. So we've got Sutta Goswami telling the sages of Naimisharanya about Shukadev Goswami telling King Parikshit all these stories. So that's 2 levels of narrative there. And then, so King Shukadev Goswami is telling Parikshit about Maitreya instructing Vidura about different things. And along the way, Maitreya tells these different stories. So now we're about to go to a 4th level of the narrative. It's like those, the Russian Matryoshka dolls, those nested Russian dolls. You've got a story within a story within a story. So that's one thing. I just, as an old English professor, someone who's done an awful lot of reading in his life, I find Srimad Bhagavatam just mind-blowing in so many ways. Just the structure. Even we see that the structure is not chronological. One devotee in Honolulu was asking me about this a couple weeks ago. He was asking me about whether someone came after someone else because they were in a subsequent canto. They showed up in a subsequent canto. And I said, well, actually, the Bhagavatam's not structured chronologically. It's structured by in one sense, by depth of profundity. It starts out, first of all, there's just a kind of an overview in the first canto. And then in the second canto, you've got a few things going on. But one of the big things that I notice about the second canto is that we're given a way of seeing how everything is Krishna. And Krishna is in everything. Everything is Krishna because everything is constituted of one of Krishna's various energies. His internal energy, his external energy, or his marginal energy, which is us. And the perspective of the Bhagavatam is what I think Jiva Goswami probably coined the term to describe Lord Chaitanya's philosophy, to distinguish it from other philosophies, achintya bheda bheda, simultaneously one and different. Everything is simultaneously identical with Krishna and different from Krishna. And how do we, how is that presented in the second canto? Well, one thing is that we get a universal form on which we can meditate as connected with Krishna, right? This isn't the universal form, this is a universal form, and it's presented specifically for the benefit of people beginning the process of trying to understand, trying to see Krishna. And so we've got, the mountains are his bones, the rivers are his veins, the forests are the hairs on his body, the sun and the moon are his eyes, etc. So that's one way to see how Krishna is everything and everything is Krishna. There isn't any, for the pure devotees, there isn't any difference between material and spiritual. For convenience's sake, we talk about matter as being jada, inert. But this is one of Krishna's energies. And Krishna refers to that, even the material energy in the Bhagavad Gita, as Daivi Prakriti, right? So, and then you've got the spiritual energy, which is inherently spiritual, and then you've got us. And we're inherently spiritual, but because of our mistake, we have a tendency, we've developed a tendency to identify with matter. So I think I'm this body. I think I'm an old white man whose family's been in North America for almost 400 years, and this is my job, this is my profession, this is my home, this is my family, all these things. But what's going to happen in my next lifetime? All my family from Lompoc, California, going to be completely forgotten. I don't remember anybody from my last lifetime. Probably, fortunately, I don't know. So the Bhagavad, and then it proceeds, and it gets progressively deep in the instructions that are given, and we're taken to progressively deep realizations, deeper and deeper realizations, until we're finally able to actually understand the nature of spiritual life as it is, and we have the opportunity to get a kind of, at least an outline of Krishna's pastimes in the 10th canto. But even the 10th canto is not presented necessarily chronologically. And one way to see that is the transition from the 22nd to 23rd chapter. 22nd chapter is the Gopi Vastraharana Leela, where in the dead of winter, Krishna tricks the gopis into kind of marrying him. He satisfies their desire to marry him by putting them in a position where, well, they're de facto married because he's seen them naked. So, and then the next thing we hear is in the heat of summer, Krishna's in the forest with his friends, and they're enjoying the shade of the trees of Vrindavan, and Krishna's pointing out to his cowherd boyfriends, just see these trees of Vrindavan, see what munificent souls they are. They're acting like umbrellas, shading us from the heat of summer. And then he goes on to glorify the trees of Vrindavan. Don't get me started. I love that chapter. That part of that chapter. So I love that chapter a lot, but that part is just so cool because Krishna really gets into glorifying the trees, and he says everybody should be like these trees because they give everything for the benefit of others. And Srila Prabhupada, well, Chaitanya Charitamrita refers to that verse. Srila Prabhupada refers to that verse quite frequently. So that's one thing that I noticed, that the Bhagavatam is just so amazing. So we've got a little context here. Anyone who knows me knows that I have a few things that I latch on to. One is context and the other is connections. So here I want to focus a little bit on context. So Narada Muni's been instructing King Puranjana. King Puranjana is doing all these sacrifices. His sons have gone off, and they've actually had the company of Lord Shiva and been instructed by him, and heard this amazing prayer. If you want prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, read Srimad Bhagavatam. There are sometimes many amazing prayers in every canto. And I remember one of the things that really hooked me reading Srimad Bhagavatam back in, well, this was probably early 1970, was when I started reading chapter 8 of the first canto. All we had was the first canto back then. And the prayers of Queen Kunti. And I thought, aha, this is how you pray. There's a whole backstory to that. But I just thought, okay, this is how you pray. And then, we kept getting more cantos with more prayers. And so this prayers of Lord Shiva, this extended prayer of Lord Shiva to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is amazing. And then now King Puranjana's come back, and he's talking to, Narada Muni's come back, and he's talking to King Puranjana. King Puranjana's, meantime, he's just performing all these sacrifices as a part of the karma kanda practice. Trying to get material, trying to assure more and more material benefits for himself and perhaps for his subjects. King Prithu earlier in the fourth canto, decided he would, once he was established, decided he was going to perform 100 horse sacrifices. There was a whole drama that ensued from that as well, right? Indra was known as the guy who's done 100 horse sacrifices. And then he saw a threat from King Prithu. And so there was this whole drama around that 100th horse sacrifice. The Lord himself intervened and brought a little peace to the situation. So he sees him engaged in this enormous karmakandiya endeavor. And so here he wants to point out, he's asking him, what's the point? So he says, my dear king, what do you desire to achieve by performing these fruitive activities? The chief aim of life is to get rid of all miseries and enjoy happiness. But these two things cannot be realized by fruitive activity, cessation of misery and enjoying happiness. Where do those two things come from? I think I was talking about it last night, right? Kleshagni and Shubhada. They're the first two characteristics of pure devotional service. And he continues. So then the king says, well, obviously my intelligence is entangled in fruitive activity, so I don't know the ultimate goal of life. Please instruct me, kindly instruct me in pure knowledge so that I can get out of the entanglement of fruitive activities. Those who are interested only in a so-called beautiful life, remaining as a householder, entangled by sons and a wife, and searching after wealth, they think that such things are life's ultimate goal. Such people simply wander in different types of bodies throughout this material existence without finding the ultimate goal of life. Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagavanajiv, right? Just wandering around looking for happiness. And so Narada replied, O ruler of the citizens, my dear king, please see in the sky those animals which you've sacrificed without compassion and without mercy in the sacrificial arena. All these animals are awaiting your death so that they can avenge the injuries you have inflicted upon them. After you die, they will angrily pierce your body with iron thorns. So he's underscoring here the idea that the path of material enjoyment is fraught with all kinds of difficulties. Srila Prabhupada uses the example of piercing, of wanting to wear beautiful ornaments on our body, in our nose or in our ears, and so we have to pierce our ears or our nose to do this. And I remember when I was probably 15 or 16, my little sister, who I guess was 12 or 13, wanted to have her ears pierced. And so my dad obliged. And I remember that when Dad was arranging to pierce Hilda's ears, I went up into my bedroom and I turned on the radio really loud because I just didn't want to hear it. The idea freaked me out. And I just thought, oh God, Hilda's going to cry out in pain and it's going to freak me out because I love my little sister dearly. And then I remember he used an ice cube, you know, he did the needle in the ice cube thing. I think put a needle in a cork and used an ice cube or something like that. And I don't remember how it went because I was in a different universe right then. I was in rock and roll land or something. But I remember when we took our older daughter to a jeweler's to get her ears pierced, there was that, my whole body clenched up. So if we want to look nice, we want to look cool with earrings or a pierced nose. And my older daughter, she ended up getting both her nose and her septum pierced. There's a cute story that my mom, when was it? 97. It was a combination Dad's 50th birthday, Mom and Dad's 20th anniversary gift. Our girls put their money together and they sent us back to Hawaii for a week's vacation in between the end of the summer term and the fall term. And the girls dropped us off at LAX and then they drove up the coast and just camped at beach parks up the coast. And they stopped to visit my mother along the way. My mom was undergoing chemotherapy for ovarian cancer, and they hadn't seen her, I guess, since Christmas, and so it had been 7-8 months since they'd seen her, and so they just dropped in on Mom without any announcement. We didn't have cell phones back then, and they dropped in on her by surprise around lunchtime. They had camped at a beach park in Santa Barbara County, and they stopped at Mom's for lunchtime. And Krishnamai usually took out her nose ring and septum ring when we went to see Mom for Christmas, at Christmas time, and but she inadvertently left them in, and my mom looked at Krishnamai and she said, "What's that?" And Krishnamai just shrugged and says, "Well, it's a nose ring and a septum ring." And my mom said, "Oh yeah? Well, catch this." And she whipped her wig off. and the girls' jaws dropped on the floor when they saw my mom with her bald head. So we want to enjoy something, but there's some pain involved. We want to decorate our body, but there's considerable pain involved in getting tattoos. My younger daughter experienced that. For one of her birthdays when we were living on the Big Island, she wanted a tattoo. She wanted to get a small Celtic knot tattoo just to kind of see whether she wanted more tattoos. That's her last tattoo. We asked her how to go. She said, "It hurt so much." And I've always wondered, why, they swab with alcohol. Why don't they swab with lidocaine too or something, to kill the pain? And I see people with a lot of ink and I think, okay, there's somebody who's a bit of an endorphin junkie, among other things. It's the only way I can understand that. My students in Hawaii, a lot of my students, when I taught at Hawaii Community College, some of them were members of hula schools, native dance. And they had a lot of these tribal tattoos, Hawaiian tattoos. And some of them got their tattoos the traditional way, which was with a stylus with ink on it and like a hammer. But they would also have to drink a lot of kava. That's part of the deal. You drink a lot of kava beforehand so you don't give a darn about the pain. You get ripped on kava before you do that. So there's pain involved in getting ahead in the material world. We all know this. We had to endure years of school for our benefit, right? But for the benefit of society as well. And sometimes school can be just really painful. We have teachers, sometimes we have teachers who aren't great teachers, teachers who are jerks. You have to put up with the other kids in school. And then there's homework. And because I gave so much homework to so many thousands of people over the years I was teaching, I find that I often leave a class with homework to do. Someone will ask me a question and it'll stump me, and I think, I have to go back and look that up. So I'm always taking tarea away from the classes that I give. And I think, okay, that's the universe's response for all the homework I gave all these thousands of people over the year, probably 6,500, 7,000 college students I taught. So there's considerable pain. So what's the point of what you're doing? You've caused so much pain in order to get ahead. And it was a lot of trouble and expense for you as well. And even more in the future. This is the whole point of the Srimad Bhagavatam, as I mentioned last night. It starts with, here's a text for people who don't have any interest. They don't have any self-interest anymore. They've seen through the scam of material endeavor. Work your okole off and try to get ahead. And even if that happens, guess what? Ashashvatam, it's temporary. Dhukalayam, there's so much trouble involved in the endeavor to get ahead. And then ashashvatam, then it's temporary. Even if you attain svarga, even if you attain the heavenly plants, get the post of Indra, when your pious credit wears out, chine punyamartya lokam vishat. I think I do this because it feels like going down the drain of a toilet or something like that. And the swirl is concentric, right? I mean, what do you call it? Clockwise. So it's just so much trouble, and really nothing is gained. Because whatever you gain, it's going to be lost somehow or other. And we get into so much anxiety about this stuff. I think the guy who was the world's richest man when I was growing up was Howard Hughes. Now, Howard Hughes was insanely rich for his time. He owned a movie studio, which means essentially he owned the most beautiful movie actresses. He had access, get the euphemism, I hope, to some of the most beautiful and famous women in the world. He owned so many companies. He had invented an airplane that didn't really go anywhere. So many things, so famous for his wealth. And at the end of his life, he went insane at the prospect of losing his wealth. He didn't trust anybody. He was afraid of germs, and he had completely lost his mind, lost the ability even to take care of his own body, worrying about losing all that wealth. It's going to go. It's going to happen anyway. All the stuff we build in this world is just sand castles. Kids, play on the beach and they build sand. I remember doing this. We went to the beach all the time when I was a kid. We'd build our sand castles, and then the tide would come in, and all of a sudden there's no trace. There's one of the famous English romantic poems written by Shelley, Ozymandias, it's a sonnet, very, very famous sonnet. There were actually two sonnets written by this. There was a kind of a competition. And these two sonnets became known because of this. There was going to be some Egyptian exhibition at the British Royal Museum. And then there was a challenge to write a sonnet about ancient Egyptian civilization. So these two poets, Shelley and I can't remember who the other one was, wrote sonnets about, and Shelley's is the best known. The other one's also a little interesting, but Shelley's is really evocative. About some guy is exploring the desert, and in the middle of this desert, he finds this statue, broken pieces of statue, just a few pieces lying in the sand, including the face of this great king, and it's Ramses. Ozymandias is the Greek name for Ramses II. So let it be written, so let it be done. If you're old enough to remember that version of the Ten Commandments. And then also still there is and he has got a scowl on his face as if to say, look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Look what I have built. Look at this great civilization I have built, and feel small. Meanwhile, all there is just sand and a few broken pieces of this statue. The whole civilization is gone, buried, and lost to time. Like sands in an hourglass, so are the days of our lives. So this is the point that Narada Muni is making. Narada Muni is known for shaking people up. He's a transcendental provocateur. And he found Srila Vyasadeva just in the depths of depression. After bringing together, assembling all the Vedic texts, the Vedas, including the Upanishads and the Samhitas, and all the Puranas, and then the Itihasas like the Mahabharata, and still he felt unfulfilled. And because there was still this hole in his heart, he's sitting there depressed. Okay, what have I missed? Oh, maybe did I miss bhakti? And Narada Muni comes along and says, yup. Absolutely. And how does he characterize all the work that, well, there are two ways. One is he makes makes a simile, creates a simile in one verse. And so he compares it to what? Place of pilgrimage for crows. What's the place of pilgrimage for crows? The dump, right? And then he's also characterized it with a very interesting word, jugupsitam, which means detestable, disgusting. And he's talking about the Vedic literatures here. Compared with what you need to do, what you've done so far is just disgusting because it's leaving people confused. In the Vedas, there's literally something for everyone. You want to get ahead in the material world? Okay, we got all these really kind of gross-looking sacrifices for you to engage in. You want to meditate on the Paramatma, get some mystic powers? Okay, there's the path of yoga. You want to get free from the whole mess? Okay, there's the path of jnana. But the Bhagavatam is for people who are ready to move beyond all these things and seek. It starts out rejecting the four purusharthas, the four great values of human life, dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, as cheating dharma, kaitava dharma. Why cheating religion? Krishnadas Kaviraj explains in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. What do I mean? What does the Bhagavatam mean when it says cheating religion? It means dharma, artha, kama, moksha, vancha. It means the aspiration for all these things because they're self-centered. It's about me. My virtue, my material progress, my pleasure, my freedom. But the Bhagavatam, so here Narada Muni's come to shake Puranjana up by telling the story of himself. Puranjana, in a sense, is an everyman story. That's an old category of literature. It's what they call them, everyman story, every person's story, as we would say nowadays. But I'm over time, and I'm going to stop here. Questions, comments, objections?
Yes.
Sureshwara Prabhu.
You mentioned how you can't understand the Bhagavatam chronologically. That's the only way I can make sense out of something that Barishat said in text 5 and 6, because in text 4, Narada Muni said, why are you doing all these sacrifices? And then in text 5 and 6, Barishat, he's speaking like he's already been enlightened by Narada Muni. He's speaking listen to this. This is Barishat saying, before he's even been instructed, he says, those who are interested only in so-called dutiful life, namely remaining as a householder, and you already said this, think that such things are life's ultimate goal. But he hasn't even been instructed by Narada Muni. He's speaking like he already has been instructed.
It struck me as a fancy way of saying, yeah, I'm obviously a dope. Otherwise, why am I doing this? So please square me away.
Well, that's
Please get
interesting
me out.
that he's that honest, and
He is pious.
and he hasn't even but he's wrapped up in karma kanda. So he's seeing even before he's instructed the futility of what he's doing.
I should know better. Yeah,
But he can't help himself because he's so.
the devil made me do it. Right? I'm a slave to my senses. I'm a Kali Yuga kid. That was a blues song that I wrote about, that I started about 55 years ago, and that's the farthest I've gotten. So those first two 4-bar things. I'm a slave to my senses. I'm a Kali Yuga kid, and I can never figured out where to go from there.
So even though Barishat, he really wants Narada Muni to tell him the truth, but Narada knows that he's not ready to hear anything but an allegory. He's gonna tell it to him indirectly.
One more thing about this is that setting. I'm going to tell you a story. We see this throughout the Bhagavatam, and it reminds me of a film I saw years ago called El Amor Brujo, Love the Magician, Love the Enchanter, Love the Wizard. And it starts out with the camera way back, and you see the whole sound set, and it gradually zooms in on the set, and then all of a sudden the story starts. It's a kind of a flamenco Romeo and Juliet story, but it starts out like that. And you see the cables and the lights and the boom mics and everything like that, and then it gradually moves in on the set, on the sound stage, and it's as if the guy is sitting at the fire saying, "I'm going to tell you a story." So I kind of like that. Thank you. Anything else? I mean, Puranjan is pious. He knows he should know better. But, please help me out here. Okay. Almost on time. Oh, look. It's me stopping on time again. Thank you so much. Gruntharaja Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai.
No.